This is a request by MB for me to review Pro Wrestling Guerrilla's Pearl Habra DVD. Now, I get requests all the time to do Pro Wrestling Guerrilla reviews, and a lot of people ask why I don't do them. The reason why is because I have a very big love-hate relationship with Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Either I really like their shows, or I really, really don't like their shows. And the fact that every time I try to buy DVDs directly from them, I always have a problem. So I always end up buying them from High Spots, but they, they're partnered with High Spots anyway, so it's not a big deal there. But I always wind up, and there's various issues I have with Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. A lot of their fans, their diehard fans, go, "Oh, it's so much better production values and all this stuff." And on the DVD, the menus and the graphics and all of that stuff are really good. But once the actual show starts, the production values aren't always up to where the rest of the DVD is. The fact that you basically have to search, and this is a little minor quip, but you have to search for the actual commentary, because if you actually watch the DVD, there's no commentary. And that's kind of cool in some extent, in some ways, but it's not cool in other ways, because sometimes you do want commentary, and the commentary they have is funny. It just sounds like and good, as it's more like Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. It's more tongue-in-cheek, but it sounds like it's often taped in a freaking bathroom. I mean, it's just not. There's lots of stuff production-wise that I always look at Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and just kind of go, huh? Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, for those of you who don't know, is often considered Ring of Honor West Coast, which I don't think is a very fair exception for them, because you don't. I think people watch Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and they expect big crowds. They don't get that big of crowds. It's much more, I would say, the feel of the show and everything with Pro Wrestling Guerrilla is much more, I would say, along the lines of IWE Mid-South, not so much ROH. You get a little more laid back, and that's some ways a good thing, because you don't have the crowd trying to get itself over like sometimes you get in Ring of Honor. But often they are a little too laid back, and it's just it really does take away from the match, because the crowd is just not there, and there's not any energy, and you can feel there's not any energy, and that often just throws me off. It's one of the reasons why I don't like doing Pro Wrestling Guerrilla reviews, because it's very hard for me to review the shows, because often I don't enjoy the shows because the crowds are just low key, and I'm just kind of like, oh. And it's not like watching a Japanese show where even though they're quiet, there's still an electricity to it, and I just don't get that in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla DVDs. So I always I don't really like reviewing a lot of their DVDs unless it's a bigger show and a show I can really get into, and that sometimes is not always the case. But on with this show, the reason why MB wanted me to do this is because the Skype talkers, myself included, all tried to get him to go to a Pro Wrestling Guerrilla show, because he lives in the area, and we were like, hey man, you need to, you should at least go see if you like it and try it out. And he did, and he enjoyed himself, and so he wanted me to review it. And if you get the DVD, or if you watch the DVD, he's there front and center. You can see him through almost the entire show right there. He looked like he had a pretty good time during the show. He said he had a pretty good time during the show, which is good. And as often the case, being there live is so much better than actually watching it on DVD or television. The opening match was TJ Perkins and Hook Bomberry versus the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks are often referred to as the next-gen Party Boys, and I would say there's a lot of truth to that. They're very similar, though I would say at this stage they are better than the Hardys were at the same stage. So they're a lot of fun to watch. They remind me more of an old Southern, the Rock and Roll Express or the Midnight Express, with a little bit more flipping and flopping going on, but that's not a bad thing. This was an okay match. It was kind of sloppy in parts, which would be expected with the guys involved. TJ Perkins, in my opinion, is a guy that I think often gets overlooked. He's not the greatest guy in the world, as he's sometimes sloppy and he's sometimes just kind of there. But I do think he would make a good jobber for either TNA or WWE or Ring of Honor for that. He is used on the NWA Showcase quite a bit. But this was an okay match. Had some good spots. Not anything I would go out of my way to see. Probably not even a good showcase for all three guys, but it was there. It was an okay opener. I'd give 2.5 stars. Okay. Then we had Roderick Strong versus Rocky Romero for the #1 contendership for the PWG title in a 2 out of 3 falls match. This was booked actually pretty well. It would be what you expect out of these guys. A good, solid match with a very good opening, which kind of just surprised and got me a little bit into the match. This was probably, I would say, the match the fans were most into the night, which was kind of cool, but it was what you would expect between. I mean, it was Rocky Romero, Roderick Strong, good stiff shots, some nice moves, some good near falls, good stuff. 3.25 stars. Then we had Scorpio Sky and Ronin versus Phoenix Star and Zokre, better known as Los Luchas. And this was, again, this was almost good. It was kind of sloppy, and at points it just turned into just more of a spot fest, a very similar spot fest of what, you know, TNA often does with the X Division, where it's just kind of like, yay, look, yay, 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 and there wasn't much into it. But it was almost good. I give it 2 3/4 stars. It was a good showing by Phoenix Star and Zokre, though, as another team that you often see on the NWA Showcase. And this was probably one of the better matches I have seen them in myself. Still, it was a fun match, and pretty fun. Then we had Human Tornado versus Chris Hero in a no DQ match. This started off so slow that I don't know if it was just I couldn't get into this or what, but I just wasn't feeling the first, I would say, half of this match. Then it kind of picked up. It got really good with some good hard shots, a little bit of psychology thrown into it. The crowd was kind of into this, but not as much as I would think. Like I said, I cannot get a good read on Pro Wrestling Guerrilla crowds, and I think it just kind of throws me off when I'm watching some of these matches. Still, there was a couple good spots, particularly Chris Hero using a chain to kind of hang Human Tornado, which was kind of cool. Some good chair shots, some good shots on the chairs, some moves on the chairs. But it just was lacking something. I'm not too sure. But I like this match, and I give it 3 stars. There you go, MB. Then we had Scott Lost and Joey Ryan versus the Young Bucks. Again, this was set up by Lost and Ryan being given the PWG tag titles because they Super Dragon and Davey Richards were not going to be able to defend them. They hadn't defended them in a while, apparently, and so the titles were forfeit, given to Joey Ryan and Scott Lost, and they said they wanted to defend the titles, so they challenged somebody to come out. The Young Bucks came out. This was a good match, much better than the opener. With Ryan and Lost being pretty entertaining. They are both entertaining. They're funny in a very good way. And then the Young Bucks being able to do what they could do, and it was not a slop. They were not as sloppy as they were in the opener, but still good match. I give it 3.25 stars. And then we had the main event for the PWG title, Loki versus El Generico. This was a little disappointing in my opinion. It was still good, but it was just it was just missing something. I don't know. I just was getting a bad feel about this, and this is, like I said, this is why I don't like reviewing PWG DVDs, because I often just cannot get a good grasp. The crowd stuff just really takes me out of the matches. But this was still a good match. A lot of good spots. You know, a good mix of El Generico doing his high flying and low-key doing his new, more ground-based attacks, which he's been doing. Still a lot of good stuff, a lot of good spots. I'd give it 3.5 stars. Very good, good match, I would say. Overall, I really didn't enjoy the show. I'd give it a 6.5 myself. Like I said, either I love PWG or I hate it. Their major shows usually really deliver, and I think they're amazing and some of the best wrestling you will see, but usually their regular shows are just kind of there and blah, such as this one. There you go. Hope you're happy, MB, and I am out.
Let's ride.